So now that you understand exposure, let's talk about the second most powerful part of your camera, which is your lenses. If the sensor is your camera's eye, your lens is how it sees the world. And the lens you choose has a huge impact on how your footage feels. Now, there's two main types of lenses, prime and zoom. Prime lenses have what's called a fixed focal length, which means they don't zoom, but they're often sharper, they're faster, and they let in more light. Zoom lenses can change focal length, so they're more flexible, and they're great for fast shooting. Right now, I'm shooting on a 24-70 zoom lens, and it's set to 50 millimeters. It's crisp, it's got a shallow depth of field, and because it's a zoom lens, it's really easy for me to set up around my studio. Now, because I'm using this 24-70 millimeter zoom, I can easily reframe without moving the camera, which is super helpful when you're filming on the go. And for beginners, a good zoom like this 24-70 millimeter or an 18-55 millimeter gives you great options. As you grow, prime lenses like the 35, the 50 millimeter, or the 85 millimeter are going to give you much more cinematic control. So focal length is measured in millimeters, and it basically means how zoomed in or how wide the lens is. A wide angle like 10 millimeters or 24 millimeters shows more of the scene. This is great for vlogging or landscapes. Then you've got mid-range, 35 to 50 millimeter. These are really natural looking. They're great for interviews and everyday use. Then you've got telephoto. That's 85 millimeters to 200 millimeters. These give you really tight shots and they compress the background. They'll give you beautiful portraits and really cinematic close-ups. So watch how different these feel. The wider ones show more space. The tighter ones feel more intimate and dramatic. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky, but I'm going to try to keep it simple. Cameras have different sensor sizes, and the size of that sensor affects how your lens behaves. So what is a crop sensor? A full-frame sensor is the same size as 35 millimeter film. This captures the entire image from your lens. But a crop sensor, sometimes called an APS-C, is a bit smaller. That means that it only shows the middle part of the image that your lens produces. It's kind of like zooming in a little by default, and it gives you a crop factor. So what is a crop factor? Crop factor is the number we use to describe how much tighter the shot becomes when you're using a crop sensor. Now, most crop sensor cameras, like the Nikon Z30, the Z50, have a 1.5 times crop factor. So if you're using a 50 millimeter lens on a crop sensor, it behaves a little more like a 75 millimeter lens, because 50 times 1.5 equals 75. So you get a tighter shot, a bit more background compression, and a narrower field of view. So why would you use one? Crop sensors are not worse, they're just different. In fact, they're usually cheaper, lighter, and they're a lot more compact. These are great for travel and vlogging. They give you better reach for wildlife or sports, and they still give you amazing image quality. It just looks a little different. So how do you know if you have one? Most beginner and mid-range cameras are crop sensors. The Nikon Z30 and Z50 are crop. The Nikon Z6, Z7, Z8, and Z9 are full frame. If you're not sure, just Google your camera model or check your user manual. It'll say APS-C or full frame right away. So if you're using a crop sensor, just remember to multiply your lens number by 1.5 to understand how it will look. A 35 millimeter on a crop sensor acts like a 50 millimeter. A 50 millimeter acts like a 75 millimeter. And remember, it's not better or worse, it's just a different way of framing. So how do you know which lens to use? For talking head videos, I would suggest using a 35 millimeter or a 50 millimeter. That gives you really nice framing and a blurred background. If you're vlogging, holding the camera yourself, I would use a 16 to 24 millimeter. This you can hold really close to your subject or yourself, and it'll show more of your environment. If you want really cinematic B-roll, I would use an 85 millimeter or something like a 70 to 200 millimeter. This will give you really shallow depth of field and a really nice, dreamy cinematic feel. If you're doing some running and gunning and you're in a hurry to get a lot more shots, I would suggest getting something like a 24 to 70 millimeter zoom. These are super versatile. If you could only pick one lens to shoot with, I'd go with a 24 to 70 millimeter. But my favorites for cinematic looks are a 35 millimeter or an 85 millimeter prime. That's what you're gonna see in most of this course. Now, I'm personally using Nikon Z-mount lenses, and anyone will tell you how sharp and clean Nikon lenses are, especially the professional S-line primes. But honestly, any lens can work if you know how to use it, and I'm gonna teach you how to do it. Here's a few pro tips. Step back and zoom in. If you step back and zoom in, you'll get more compression in the background. This is gonna create a lot more dreamy depth. Lower your aperture, a low f number. This gives you more blur and more drama. Use movement. Lens choice and camera motion equals super cinematic storytelling. So lenses are a creative tool. Don't worry about having the perfect setup, just start learning how different focal lengths feel, and then build from there. Coming up next, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful tools of visual storytelling, composition. If this helped you even a little, hit subscribe. I've got a full playlist walking you through every step of becoming a confident filmmaker, and if you want my free downloadable gear guide, the link is right below.